32 ticks following. So they are swallowing. Monkey is swallowing. Snake self swallowing. Next, a swallow 2 will fly and come and swallow. You're ever swallow in a hollow gallow, making a whole lot of halabaloo. Jale Kalu, we know say you chop the money some, so give me the loot. Do you really want a revolution or just your turn?
Welcome to Ake Arts and Book Festival 2020 online. My name is Olaokun Soyinka, and I will be hosting the book chat with David Dotun Fasanya, the author of Way of the Junglepreneur. David Fasanya is a global strategist, author, thought leader, and business survivalist. From his early days in military high school and holidays as a blue-collar factory worker, to starting business with a blank laptop, no money, electricity, or phones, the seeds of tough junglepreneurship were sown within him. He succeeded in a number of enterprises, and his background combines practical experience of tough business terrains globally with academic knowledge. David has consulted on large-scale transformational projects for AstraZeneca, JP Morgan, Chase, and the Higher Education Statistics Agency in the UK. He has implemented solutions for Zenith Bank, TCC Ogiri, Cyberspace.ng, and Union Bank, amongst others. With positive energy, wit, fun, and passion, he distills over 20 years of business jungle experience into a valuable guidebook for budding entrepreneurs and seasoned business leaders alike. And in his spare time, loves exotic travel with his family and friends, music, surfing on Spotify, martial arts, and golf caddying. Good day, Mr. Olusoyinka. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Soyinka. Thank you very much.
So, well, of course, I have to comment on your neologism, the word that you have coined, the junglepreneur. When did that occur to you, and why have you chosen that title?
The title Junglepreneur actually came to me in a moment of inspiration. I would say I was half asleep, and then the word Junglepreneur dropped in my mind, and I thought, oh, that's a word I've heard before. So the first thing I did was to go on Google to search for the word Junglepreneur, and it didn't exist. And so I realized that that was a moment of inspiration that was given to me by Providence. And prior to that, I'd been meditating on the concept of business as a jungle and my own experiences in various places all over the world. And I've been thinking of all those experiences and of people that I know as well. But then the word itself just dropped in my mind. And that was how I got the word. So,
yeah, it's great. I mean, I think it speaks for itself, and in communication, that's always a great thing. Now, before we get into some of the concepts within the book, so that our viewers can get to know you a bit better, perhaps I've given a little potted history, but perhaps you'd flesh that out for us and tell us a bit about your business background.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Soyinka. Well, my background in business started on the factory floors of my dad's factory when I was a teenager many years ago. And he had a factory in Lagos. He used to be an importer of chemicals into Nigeria. And during those days when there was the import license problem, he diversified into manufacturing. So he set up this firm to manufacture household products. So during the holidays, I would naturally want to go and play. And he said, you know what, young man, come to the factory and come and gain some experience. So I thought, as probably the son of the owner, I was going to get a red carpet treatment. But lo and behold, I was given a blue overall and put in the factory and say, yeah, there you go, get on the factory line. And there was no preferential treatment. So that was where I started my business experience on the factory floor. And of course, I'll ride over with him and he will share the experiences of the day. And but he understood we were in a very tough environment. and he wanted me to understand very early what it took to work hard. So I learned how to mix with people from there. And later on, I went to cut my own teeth in the business world. And so I started out, I wanted to do something for myself. So I started with a blank laptop. I didn't get any financial support for that. I could have, but also because of certain reasons, that wasn't available. So I just had to start from scratch. So I found myself with a blank laptop, no lights, and I'm just staring at the laptop and saying, okay, so what am I going to do now? And I had to motivate myself from there to come up with ideas. And so the first opportunity I had was to start a biometric, co-found a biometric company in Lagos. And from there, 5 years later, I was able to grow it into a large organization, and that's where the sales into Zenith Bank and the others happened. And I also co-founded a manufacturing servicing firm and grew it to service over 60 companies. And from there, that was where the ball started rolling for my business experience. And in all that, I started, doing business with different countries of the world. Some of the projects I was doing, I began to travel to other countries, bring in other partners to come and do those projects with me in Nigeria. But then, the opportunity came for me to also relocate abroad for personal reasons. It was just meant to be a short 1-year stint, but then I located abroad and it became a longer sojourn. And while I was here, I had to more or less start afresh again because it's a new environment. And so I got into an online company that was selling goods into Africa. And from there, I got into other consulting opportunities with various clients, which now led into all the names you've mentioned, and growing eventually into the Junglepreneur group. I've been fortunate to have been able to generate in the companies I've led 7-8 figure turnovers, which I guess starting from zero is not bad, and so that generally is a quick run through of my background.
Great. Well, certainly that shows that you have the entrepreneurial spirit, and again, the title of the book contains that word. However, it's my understanding of it, reading it, it's very rich and has a lot of valuable advice and wisdom within it. So who is the book actually targeted at? I'm assuming it's not just for the entrepreneur or the startups, but also even for a wider audience.
Yes, probably to answer that question, I'll talk about how the book got written. You asked me about the title. So the title dropped in my mind, but then the book itself was inspired by an epiphany I had on a trip to Ghana, where I'd gone to support a charity there, and they had said, look, come and see what we're doing, the outskirts of Accra. So on this day, I went to the outskirts of Accra, and while I was in traffic, there was a young man trying to catch my attention in the regular West African go-slow, what we call go-slow, which is the traffic signal. He had been trying to get my attention, but I was lost in, just the environment of seeing what was going on. And right there and then, he was trying to sell me a mobile phone. And the realization hit me that, there's no difference between this guy trying to sell me a phone and the sleek business people in Dubai, the gold souks of Dubai, on the other grand shopping malls of Montreal. And so the concept, that the name that had dropped in my mind then crystallized that, business is a jungle. And actually, it's a real phenomenon. And I then realized that I wish I had the experience or the knowledge that I had at that point earlier. And so I then decided then to write a book that could help anyone starting in business, as a kind of manual, a guide for anyone who's starting in business. But as I began to write the book, I realized that it wasn't just for people who are starting out in business, but for even matured business people who needed a bit of a refresh of concepts that they already knew, or they just needed something to encourage them from in the low moments. So the ideal reader really is, someone who's in maybe you say the age of 21 to 50. That's the standard ideal reader. But then I've found teenagers reading the book, and I've been getting experiences from them of what they like. I've had feedback from people in their 70s, even 80s, people of my father's age group who have given me amazing reviews about the book. So obviously it speaks to a large audience, but every author will tell you that they want to focus on a particular niche. That's why I said between the age of 21 to 50 and aspiring business people.
Sure. And before we get deeper into the session, I should remind our viewers that actually we're talking about not just the book itself. There is a workbook that accompanies the book. So maybe you just describe the workbook as well, and the usefulness or how you intend that to be used.
Okay. The workbook was a decision that I almost didn't want to take, because I was writing the book and I realized that sometimes you read a business book and it just tells you, oh, do this, do that, look at this case study, but there isn't anything to tell you how to go about doing that. And I didn't want my readers to be left stranded with me throwing my experience or the experience of other people and just leaving them high and dry. So I thought it would be useful to have a workbook that it can then tell them how to actually apply the principles in the book on a daily basis or a monthly basis, as the case may be. And it will be like a walkthrough, as if they were with me or with any other business person, give them a walkthrough. So the workbook is an addition to the book. It's almost like a one-on-one session with me where I actually walk the reader through what you should do based on each chapter and how you can get results from that. And it sort of holds you to account by saying, write this, write that. So it's the feedback has been really great. A lot of people have found the workbook really fantastic. Some have even used it, even probably more than the book. So, and I decided to write them at the same time, which sounded crazy at that time, but I think it was a good decision.
Yeah. Well, certainly the jungle analogy seems to work very well. As I read through the book, it's so applicable to the business terrain. And your anecdote about the vendors in traffic jams, that struck a chord with me, because I've noticed them not just because of the fact that they're selling, trying to sell something to me, but for me, they're a sign of a rather bad traffic jam, because a traffic jam doesn't really become a business opportunity until it's predictably available, which means it's there, you're going to be there for a while. There is a temptation, or certainly I found that I made an assumption that jungle kind of meant, the tropics, maybe Africa. Is there something particularly African about this book? But in fact, your definition of the business jungle is different. It doesn't have to be literally in maybe, shall we say, an underdeveloped country, or a country with the challenges of a developing country. So can you define what you mean by the business jungle, that kind of terrain?
Okay. I'm glad you picked up on that, because that would have been the natural inclination to assume. And my definition of the business jungle is anywhere in the world where a tough environment springs up, or a tough situation springs up that makes it challenging to conduct business. So it could be due to natural occurrences like we have now, which we have a pandemic. It could be due to economic circumstances. It could be due to maybe political turmoil. Whatever situation that creates an environment that makes it very difficult for people to conduct business becomes a business jungle. So it's not a physical jungle in that instance, but you can draw parallels between physical jungle and the business jungle with regards to what you would experience. So similar to what you'd experience in a real jungle, where you have prey, you have predators, you have beautiful, nice looking areas, and then you have scary places. Draw very similar analogies with the business jungle. So that's simile, where we say business is like a jungle, is likening business to a jungle. And what essentially it means that there are similarities that you could draw between the two. And what I did was to try and explain that further, to say, okay, everyone hears this business is jungle. How do I deliver this in a way that people understand? So what I did was I drew true parallels and said there are overlaps between the two, between what you call the business jungle and the real jungle. And 4 things tie them together. The first is challenges. Second is opportunities. The third is resources. And the fourth is energy. This you will find as, if you're in a real jungle and a business jungle, these are things you will find. So when you're in the business jungle, what I say is that you should be able to develop the capability to overcome your challenges by deploying and maximizing all the opportunities at your disposal, and also utilizing the resources available to you, and also deploying your energy. So that's where the core, which I call core, C-O-R-E, comes in place. So that essentially ties that business as a jungle, which we all just bandy, it ties it together. That with that core, challenges, opportunities, resources, and energy, that is what makes both similar. And you being able to use that will enable you to survive in the business jungle.
We're getting into some of the useful and valuable advice within the book. One that struck me was at the beginning, where you talked about some of the attributes that are needed when you're thinking of going into a business or starting a business. And the one that struck a chord with me was the issue you actually started with the brain. And why that interested me is because I believe in that in lifelong learning. I believe that no matter how much you know about anything, there's always more to be learned. In fact, the more you learn, the more you realize how much there is to learn. So give us a little insight into that chapter about the importance of developing the brain, the ability to learn, the ability to think.
That chapter speaks to the concept of mindset. So what I did was to try and put together a framework to walk through the book and understand very easily what it's about. And so the first thing I started speaking about was mindset, and that's where I spoke about the brain. If you have succeeded in one environment and you move to another environment, what would enable you to be able to succeed in either place is the kind of mindset that you have. And this was what I experienced personally. So I'm coming back to where the brain comes in. So when I relocated to a new environment, obviously because I was successful in one, I couldn't just assume I would be successful in the other. But I had to capture the mindset that helped me to succeed in one and use that same mindset in the other. But behind that mindset is the power of the brain, which is the most powerful tool the powerful organ in the human body. And the brain it's what you call like the control center of every human. As a medical doctor, you know more about this than I do. But what I also realize is that the brain has the ability to be trained. It has the ability to be retrained. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise, the bigger it grows. So if you train the brain, through different kinds of exercises I mentioned in the book, it grows and it develops, it strengthens the neurons in the brain, and you're able to do things that you never imagined. I will use myself as a personal example. When I was in Nigeria, I had a master's degree. And when I relocated here, I decided I wanted to challenge my brain and grow my brain because I was in another environment. My father had always told me to do so, but I didn't have time. Then I was busy chasing money when I was in Lagos. But after I passed on and I relocated here, some of the things he said made more sense to me. So I thought, okay, he's always said get international experience, get another degree. So I decided to challenge myself and develop my brain. And because I knew that somewhere down the line, someday, I'll have to prove that. So I went back to school, did another master's, and did a doctorate. And that showed me that even though I didn't feel like it, because I challenged myself, I was able to grow in that regard. So the brain is very important in business because you are going to be taking decisions, very important decisions every day. Some of them are, snap decisions, and you've got to be able to back that up with a thought process that has considered all the information and then taking the right route. So I speak about it more in the book, but obviously it's a very important aspect for the business person. What you eat to grow your brain, the exercises you do, and what the kind of thought processes. I think I mentioned in the book. So it's a really important part.
Yes, I would definitely second that. And I think people tend to think that their brain is what they're born with, and either you're smart or sharp or funny or clever. And they don't realize that anything, the muscle analogy, that if you want to develop a part of your body or strengthen a part of your body, you exercise it. And it's the same with the brain and aspects of your capabilities, whether it's memory or critical thinking, etc. So that alone, I would get the book for that. But something else I noted, you like acronyms, and one acronym that I quite liked was the acronym MIND-KIT, and I think that's also seemed to me to be very central to the whole, that kind of held the advice and the tips and tricks together. So perhaps you could talk us through that particular acronym.
Yes, I've been pulled on my love for acronyms, but I think acronyms they sort of help. I find them useful in helping to bring together different thoughts or patterns and form it into something that you can easily remember. That's why I use quite a bit of acronyms in the book. So with Junglepreneur, MIND-KIT ties together all the concepts. So MIND-KIT means mindset, M mindset, I innovation, N network, E energy, K is for knowledge, I is for income, and T is for traits. So those 7 things I called out and said, okay, if I'm saying people should become a Junglepreneur or become a better Junglepreneur, what are the key things they need to focus on? And it's those 7 things that I call out to say, focus on these 7. It has worked for me. It has worked for a lot of people I know. It has worked for me in Africa. It has worked for me in the Western world. It has worked for a lot of people I know. This focus on these 7 things as a roadmap, and you will get results. So that is what MIND-KIT is about. And in the book, I go into more details about what mindset is, which is spoken about. Innovation, being innovative, what it means to be innovative, particularly in this new. I think it's even more. The MIND-KIT is even more pertinent in the new normal that we are in now, where the whole world has become a tough terrain overnight because of the pandemic. So deploying those would be useful. N is for network. You have to be networked and linked. E is for energy. I mentioned energy in the jungle. Energy is so important. Without energy, you can't survive in the business jungle or in the real jungle. So how do you maximize your energy? How do you develop your energy? How do you save your energy? How do you preserve your energy from being killed by what I call E-killers, energy killers, which could be anything that could drain your energy. Knowledge, which we've spoken a little bit about today, how to develop knowledge in different areas of your endeavor, strategy knowledge, systems knowledge, then income, very important. We all need income to keep ourselves alive, but to also validate what we're doing. If you're a business person or even an employee, you need that income to validate the fact that you go somewhere every day and put in an effort. So how do we generate income in different terrains? And I spoke to that by describing something I call money pipes, which is my own way of describing how to generate money in different environments. And then, of course, traits. What are character traits? What makes me different from you, Dr. Soyinka? There are certain traits that I have which you may not have, and vice versa. So I speak to what I call person-specific assets. What are the assets that you have which are unique to you, that make you stand out in wherever you go, and being able to maximize those assets to be able to get results wherever you are. So that's what MIND-KIT is about.
Great. I noticed you mentioned the pipes, and something similar to pipes is a tunnel. And there's also a tunnel analogy in the book. So, and I liked that tunnel because I need tips and tricks to keep me task focused. So I think this is a particularly useful analogy. Perhaps you could explain the task.
The task tunnel. So the Junglepreneur task tunnel, it came about when I was defining who the Junglepreneur is. I realized that sometimes we have challenges with setting goals and making sure that those goals get processed into completion. So what I then did was to sit down and look at what has worked for me, what has worked for a lot of people, taking into consideration the natural challenges we'll have, like procrastination and not knowing where to start. So the task tunnel is a simple roadmap to say, if you have a certain number of tasks, start from A, do B, do C, do D, do E. And if you follow the process of that task tunnel, you will eventually have a pipeline of tasks that you are getting through from the beginning to the end, where at the end of that, you have a delivered outcome, which is what we all want. So I could speak the whole day about the task tunnel, but there are more details about that in the book. We are going to more details of how you utilize that. And in the workbook as well, there's a very extensive section on the tasks tunnel, where I then walk people through what you need to do in detail to achieve goals and tasks. I tested the task tunnel when I was writing the book. And I think I mentioned this to you informally, that I was writing the two books at the same time as when I was doing my PhD. And so it seemed crazy, but I felt if I stopped my PhD to do the book or stopped my book to do the PhD, I'll never finish either. So I just decided a crazy decision to do the three at the same time. But it was a task tunnel that helped me to be able to do all that and deliver and finish my PhD and finish the two books all at the same time. So it's a very powerful concept you've picked up on.
Yes, I think I will definitely give that a try. Yes, you made that comment. I shouldn't get you to give all the detail in the book, or people will just think, oh, well, I just made a video of this interaction a few times and then they become a junglepreneur. You would need to be a particular type of person to venture into that jungle. So whereas I assume that you probably believe, having written the book, that a lot more people who may not consider themselves that kind of explorer, that kind of adventurous person, there are a lot more people who could become a junglepreneur. Do you think that there's some, that basically if anybody was able to really embrace this set of these guidelines, that they could do it? Or are there types of people that you would say, you know what, you just go and do a 9 to 5 and you're not suited for this? What's your experience? Can anybody be a junglepreneur, I guess is my question.
Okay, I get asked this question quite a bit. There's what I'll call the nature side of it, and then the nurture, which is what you're asking about, whether someone can become it. There are people that have the natural ability by nature, who are more risk-taking, able to just jump out there, embrace risk, because as a business person, as an entrepreneur, a junglepreneur, you must have that certain level of risk appetite to embrace risk. So there are people who can do that straight away. So naturally, which I call nature, they don't need a prompt, and they can just run with this. But also, it can be nurtured. And from my experience of people who have read the book and used the workbook, people who are employees who wanted to just start something on their own, I've had feedback of them saying, you know what, I didn't even know where to start. But reading the book, I've been encouraged that at least I can start with my mindset. Let me even start from there. Begin to change my mindset into that of an entrepreneurial person. I know what I always tell people is, even if you're an employee, and you feel, no, I'm just cut out for 9 to 5, you can be an entrepreneurial employee wherever you are. Your desk can be your business. So don't see yourself as working for that person, but see yourself as working for yourself in that business. So you can be entrepreneurial even as an employee and start applying these principles until it gets to a stage where you actually decide, you know what, I'm confident enough, I have enough skills and ability to go out on my own. So the book is designed to hold the hands of people who want to be nurtured into how to become a junglepreneur. That is why I wrote the book with a lot of acronyms, and that is why it also has the workbook, so that you can train yourself. We spoke about the brain having the ability to be trained. So we can train ourselves, people can train themselves to become a junglepreneur. If you follow the concepts, if you're willing to learn and apply them, yes, definitely it can be nurtured. Absolutely. I'm so certain of that. I've seen real life proof. Even, quite recently, people who said, And the shocking thing is some of them are my family members. Sometimes they will say that you don't, you're not honored in your own, but a lot of my family members have, some of them will come and say, hey, David, you're my family member, but I just read something here that I've applied in my business and it's working. So there's a lot of proof that it works.
Yeah, that's great. Let me throw a slightly mischievous question to you, and I guess you might have had it before, and that is that you're writing a book about difficult business environments. You're about to publish it in Nigeria, but you're sitting in what many would consider to be a comfortable business environment. In other words, you are preaching to people who are in a different environment from you, although we know you've experienced it. I guess the question could be phrased, why aren't you in Nigeria really flexing your junglepreneurship?
Good question. Initially people said, when Nigerians relocate to different countries, they will say, oh, they ran away. As it would be. I relocated when I was in my mid-30s. So I was a mature man before I, decided to come here. And I came for personal reasons, like I said. But before then, I had proven this concept and had, done it the hard way. And so I understand exactly what it means to operate in a challenging and tough environment. Now, coming to the Western world, it may be assumed that, you are in the UK or US, everything works, you can't compare it to Nigeria. The terrains here are just as tough as the terrains anywhere in the world. London is not paved with gold. America is not paved with diamonds. You don't pick up money on the streets. Particularly more so when you are not native to that environment. You have to work extra hard to prove yourself against a lot of competition. And so you are dealing with a different kind of tough terrain, a different kind of dynamic, coupled with the fact that we have economic meltdowns now. We have all these environments with coming up with COVID. So you are dealing with a different kind of challenge. Whereas if you are in Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya, you are dealing with a different kind of dynamic. But to say to your question about why am I not in Nigeria, I don't need to be in Nigeria currently to prove that this works, because I've been there before. I've proven it. I've paid my dues there, and it worked for me. And I came here and I've proven it again. And I'm always back in Nigeria anyway. I'm always visiting the country every year. Sorry?
We met briefly.
Yes, we met in Nigeria, and not just Nigeria. I see global terrains everywhere. Remember, I mentioned that this was inspired in Ghana. So I don't think that you need to be in a particular location to prove that, this is where it works. It works anywhere you find yourself, provided you have the mindset to make it work wherever you are. I get a lot of feedback from Philippines on this book, and I've never been to Philippines. But it works for a lot of people there. I've gotten feedback from Brazil, from different countries in the world I've not even been to. But the feedback I'm getting is these concepts resonate. So I think the concept of physical location has been desensitized, even more so now in the new world that we are in. It's not so much as where you're physically located, but what you're able to apply in terms of your mind, your knowledge, your income, your traits. I think that's what matters.
I think that was a great answer. As I said, it was a slightly mischievous question, but
which is expected.
Yes. Now, but talking on that subject, can you give an example of what is was or has been one of the toughest business terrains that you have had to operate in, or that posed you some of the greatest challenges that you were able to overcome with some of these techniques?
Okay, well, without a doubt, one of the most challenging places has been Lagos, because of the way Lagos is structured. I'll give a very personal example. When the biometric company was going to start, then biometrics wasn't really known in Lagos, Nigeria, and people were like, okay, we've heard about this thing, all these busy things. And I was trying to pour water on the stone. And I visited every single bank in Lagos. I mean, every single bank. There was no bank that I did not visit to market and to knock on their doors to try and sell that product. Every bank. And I was doing that for years, and I didn't get one sale. So it was challenging. It was tough. This was something I co-founded. So I had partners, I had directors, I had shareholders who had invested in the business as well, and they were beginning to wonder, hey, dude, what's going on? But some of the concepts I've spoken about in the book, like networks, your trades persevering, just kept on persevering and pushing the doors and pressing the buttons until one day, one of the banks said, okay, come and try a pilot project. Before you try the pilot project, come and meet with us in the bank and tell us about this thing. And so I went with a team, and when I got there, the whole IT and the business team were all there, about 15 or 20 people. And I felt like running away. But I had to sit up there and defend my product, defend my company. And they said, okay, we'll give you a pilot project. And I made sure that I did that pilot project so well. And they were pleased. And from the pilot project to another project to another project, and that opened the floodgates. But it took years of perseverance, of driving from the mainland in crazy traffic to the island and back. And then when you even get there, they say, oh, the man just left. Oh, didn't he tell you he was going for a meeting? So Lagos was a very challenging one, but it built that resilience. But also in the UK as well, I found the UK to be a very challenging environment as well. It didn't just happen that I began to consult for big organizations. There were many years where I didn't have those opportunities. But everything that I mentioned opportunities as being one of the key things in the business jungle. Every little opportunity that I have, I make sure that I maximize the best out of it and use that as a leverage for the next opportunity. And that is what has worked for me, even here. So it took a while to break in, but once I got the initial opportunities, I then built on them. So
yeah, great. Just to change tack a little bit, because this is part of a larger festival about books and the arts. So I would like to explore your experience of actually writing, because you're now an author. And that in itself is quite a challenging activity, and not many people can do it or succeed, even if they try. So what was some of the obstacles you encountered in getting the book written and then getting it published?
The first challenge I had was I had to first decide that, do I want to be in the public domain? Because once you're an author, you're out there, your name is on the book. And I struggled with that initially, because normally I would describe myself as a private person. So I had to overcome that hurdle that as an author, you've got to be ready to be a public figure. And it took me, I took some time out to process that and what it entailed. And once I got over that hurdle, then the next thing was, how do I even begin to write a book? I've never written a book before. So I decided to just start from scratch, And so what I did was I sat down and began to put my outlines together, my thoughts. I began to physically write them, to put together an outline of what I call a skeletal framework. And the challenge I had with that was having to then think back about various things that some of them, I had to go and dig up information. But I had the outline ready, and then I wrote the first draft. And the first challenge I had was I said, okay, you know what? I want this book to be edited by, top people. So I got a very top editor here to edit it, and he literally in the first draft he tore it to shreds, and so the first hurdle I then had to realize was that to cross was that there's a difference between your book and you. You shouldn't take it personal if you've written something and somebody criticizes it. Because initially I thought, this guy has criticized me. But it wasn't criticizing me, it was the book. So I had to overcome that challenge that there's a difference between me as David Dotun Fasanya and my book, even though I'm the author of the book. So I rewrote a version of it again, sent it to another author and publisher in Australia who made edits, and then I sent it to another editor in the US. So the process I went through was an iterative process. I wrote several revisions of it. Now, this is not to discourage aspiring authors. I would say just take it a step at a time, take each day as it comes, but very importantly, have the end vision of the book in front of you. Never lose that vision. That's what is going to see you through the challenging time. So I always had the end vision of me as an author. I even did a picture. I think I printed out a picture with my name on it, even though I didn't have a draft ready. And anytime I felt discouraged, I'll look at that, and one day I'll have my name on the book. So I took each day as it comes, and my family were very supportive and encouraging as well. Then eventually we got the final draft, and then I thought it was all over until they said, "Oh, now we've got to proofread." Oh my goodness! So we then did the proofreading. But you see, the key thing here was the journey. The journey from not being an author to an author. The journey was the real experience, because it was a journey of growth. It was a journey of personal development. It was a journey of overcoming obstacles. And I think anyone who's aspiring to become an author, I would encourage you to go on that journey, because it's an exciting transition. So it's not the end book. It's not the end book itself, which is good. If I have the book and say, "Oh, I've got my name on this book," yeah, it's nice. But the journey was what I really experienced and enjoyed more, because it gave me confidence that I can start something and I can finish it, and not just finish it, but finish it well.
And I particularly like that point you make about being able to take a critique, not necessarily criticism, but critique. Editors in particular will tear your first attempt apart and encourage you to put it back together again. And many people give up at that early stage. But the best way I have found to look at it, I have not published any books, but I do a lot of writing that I have to submit for editing. And these are I asked myself the question, would I rather the editor made the criticism, or when I put it out in the public and then I start seeing wider criticism and it's too late to correct it. So the editor helps you put your best foot forward. And the thing is not to be discouraged by the editing process, but to realize that they're going to really help you polish your work and give you the best chance of it having a reception. So I'm sure you'll be planning thinking of your next book. Are you planning something like an authorpreneur?
Maybe, you never know.
But how to navigate the publishing jungle.
The publishing jungle, which is another jungle actually, because when you now finish the book, you then realize that, I've got to market this book with my publishers. That's another jungle in itself. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've got the core of the advice you're giving. You've got the workbook, which is another way to help people practicalize the advice. Have you taken advantage of other avenues by which people can interact and get the best out of this? I'm thinking of online website, for example, or any other add-ons. Are you thinking of any kind of expansion in that way?
Yes, we already have the junglepreneur.com website, and on there we have a lot of articles which we share every week to encourage people who are in challenging environments, or just business people. So loads of articles on junglepreneur.com, but we're also on Twitter, on Instagram, and Facebook. And what we are doing on the social media is to come out with what we call micro content, where we take key quotes from the book or other quotes that we like, and we talk about that and create a blog around that, create a small message. Sometimes we will write a mini case study. There are loads of case studies in the book. So what we do is sometimes we write a slightly smaller one for social media and share that. We're also beginning to convert aspects of the book now to what you call micro videos, to depict what the concepts we're talking about. We road tested that initially and just recently, and the feedback has been amazing. We got loads of hits on one of the videos we shared, so that's upcoming. We have quite a lot of things that are going to translate from the book now into the online world. So we started that process. We're building the different pipelines one at a time. We started with the written content, and now we're on social media. Eventually, we're going to audio. Blog, we'll probably then do video. So, in addition, because you mentioned this earlier, what are the next projects? We have an African version that's going to be coming out in conjunction with Wida Books, Lola, who you know quite well. Wida Books has signed the publishing rights for Junglepreneur for West and East Africa. We're going to be contextualizing the Junglepreneur book for West Africa and East Africa. So there's going to be a new version coming out specifically for that terrain, and that's an exciting project that I look forward to as well, as an add-on to Junglepreneur.
Great. And coming back to some of the advice that you're giving in the book, how would you summarize what you've put in the book? I know it's a difficult challenge, but what is the core concept that you're trying to put across in your book?
The core concept of the Junglepreneur is helping people and organizations to tame tough terrains, wherever those terrains may be. And I say people and organizations because people have tough terrains they face as business people. Organizations have tough terrains externally and internally. And the whole essence of the book is taming tough terrains. And what ties that together, the one thing that ties that together is what I call the concept of capability. I argue that capability is going to define the new laws of survival. We have the old laws of survival based on the Darwinian theories of evolution and survival of the fittest. But my argument, because when I was writing the book, I was tempted to write it from the academic side, but I'm doing it now from a practical side. My argument on the practical side is that we will have a new law of survival driven by capability, by people who are jungle capable. And what do I mean by capable? I mean people who are creative, adaptable, persistent, aware, brave, linked, and energized. That is what is going to be necessary. And that is what I want anyone to take away. How do you get to be jungle capable? Read the book, use the workbook, I explain it more, or get in touch and we can talk. But that, in essence, is required, particularly in this, I say it again, in the new normal we are in. Everything that we know has been challenged in the new world that we are in. The whole world is a global terrain. It's a global tough terrain. The whole world, anywhere you go. There's hardly any difference now between Africa or UK or US. It's a tough environment. What will make anyone succeed is being capable, jungle capable, being able to survive that tough terrain. That's my takeaway.
That's quite interesting. And it almost makes me think that you wrote this book after the pandemic started, because it is such a wonderful, I would say, an opening into how people need to reorient themselves in the new business environment that's emerging. My first question on that topic is, how can you give some more concrete detail on how you have literally seen the business ground move under your feet during this pandemic? I think a lot of people have realized that things can be done differently, work and business can be run differently. People have developed new outlooks on life in terms of the importance of, career and money versus, maybe family and personal development. A lot of things have changed. What are the real challenges you see coming up, the main changes that are challenging that have come out during the pandemic?
The first one was one of the first challenges was the how to work, how to work and deliver business projects in an environment where you cannot physically meet people. Normally, we would get on a plane and go for a meeting or we'll get on a train or get in a car and go and physically meet people and have discussions face to face. Particularly if you're of an African heritage, we like our hugs and the social interaction. But the pandemic made that go away overnight. And I felt that ground shifting from under my feet straight away, because normally I would, at my mileage of travel is very high. I'm either on the train or somewhere. I'm always traveling somewhere to do something for my clients or for people. Of course, balancing that with time for family and friends. But so that shifted straight away for me. I couldn't travel as I would normally would, but I still had clients that I had to deliver for. And one of the things that I had to do during the pandemic was to work on a project for a client that was a global project. And we couldn't physically meet. We were all physically meeting prior, but then we couldn't physically meet anymore. And we had to do everything remotely, online. And that was a big paradigm shift and a big paradigm change. It required a change in mindset. I keep on going back to mindset. So it required a change in mindset, being able to switch off from what was to what currently is, and still being able to apply the same level of detailed knowledge and expertise. It didn't happen overnight. Like you said, I felt the ground shifting under me, but I had to rely on what I had written. If you look at my own copy of the Junglepreneur, it's all marked out. I read it all the time, and I wrote the book. So I had to rely on what I had written to encourage me at this time, and it worked. Funny enough. So, and I was able to help be part of a team that delivered a global project for my client, massive global project during the pandemic. And I also came up with projects of my own, personal projects of my own. One of which is it helps young children to have storytelling, African storytelling. That's just something I do for my kids and children of friends, the free thing I do. But that came out of the pandemic. So in terms of where the world is going, we may not return back to the way it was before. So that's why I say we're in a new normal. So we need to prepare ourselves. We need to arm ourselves that it's going to be a tough terrain, a challenging terrain. However, there are still opportunities. Remember, I mentioned there are opportunities. There will always be opportunities. Opportunities abound all the time. Some of the greatest wealth was created on the back of things like this. Amazon came out of crises like this. The dot-com bubble in America in the 80s brought up companies that became mega organizations. So there will be organizations and people that will come out of this as a winner, and we should be part of that. And I believe that, applying that realization that we are in a tough terrain and being prepared for it, being prepared to do whatever it takes and applying ourselves is what will see us through onto the other side.
Then the other part of this change and how valuable this book can be is perhaps the issue of testimonials. In other words, you're getting a lot of feedback, and I'm sure there are people who look at this book and still think, do I have what it takes, or will this really help me? Can you give us some concrete examples of feedback that you've had where somebody was, pleasantly surprised by what they had in them that this book helped them to bring out?
Okay, the first one was, I'll give different age ranges. The first one, I mentioned a young man read the book, and he was encouraged to start a career for himself in the arts. And that came about by his father giving him a copy of the book, and now he's doing really well. Another example is someone who was like a father figure to me, even though he's passed on now, but he got to read the book before he passed on. He was a very good friend of my dad, and he was established already in business. He had worked for one of the big four accounting and consulting firms, and then he read the book, and the feedback he gave me was, wow, with all my experience, this shocked me and encouraged me and helped me to even do a few things I wanted to do for myself. And he was in his late 70s at that time. And there have been loads of people who started businesses and taken this as a manual and run with it. A friend of mine says he reads it every day and it's helped his business. I read the first thing in the morning. I say, you even read the book more than I do. I was shocked. He just sent me a picture one day, and then I read the book every day. I was like, wow. So I've got a lot of I can't begin to go into details of figures or how much they made or how much they didn't make, but I've got loads of encouraging feedback of various people who have read the book, and it has helped them Even last week, an old friend of mine said he's reading the book again. He just sent me a picture from Nigeria. He said, "Oh, thank you for writing this book. I'm reading it again." People who are already authors or motivators themselves have given me a lot of written testimonials of how the book has helped them. And I think for me, it's encouraging because sometimes you set a goal, and you want to make sure that you're passionate about that goal and you're enthusiastic about it and you put the plans in place. But when you then get the feedback, that gives you the validation that, oh, this actually works. Yes, that has been really, really robust and very encouraging.
And you also got some feedback from, I mean, for example, you mentioned Philippines. You haven't actually published in Philippines, have you? I mean, the book.
I've not published there. It found its way there. The book found its way there. Yeah. If you just type online, if you just type Junglepreneur online, you see loads of bookshops, organizations marketing the book I've never even met. So the book has developed feet of its own, and it's out there, and in places where I've never been, and I hope to go anyway. So
yes, and I wanted to ask you about that because clearly your one of the valuable experiences you've had is the different business terrains you've been in. And you mentioned Ghana, you mentioned obviously you've been in Nigeria, you're in the UK now. What are the different countries that you have had some business experience in? And is there a particular one that if you had a choice to start all over again, you might feel would be the best place for you and your talents and your skills?
Okay, I've had the opportunity of doing business in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Dubai, in the UK, US, Canada. I've been to Greece. I can give you a whole list of countries. But what I find is that in each location, the way business is conducted is very, very different. The way Africans conduct business is very different from the way the Europeans conduct business. It's different from the way Middle Easterns conduct business or North Americans. If there's anywhere I would want to do business again, it would be in Nigeria. Yes, it would be in Nigeria, and I'm still actively involved in Nigeria, but it will be in Nigeria. And the reason why I say that is because Nigeria is a representation of Africa, and it presents one of the greatest, Africa in my view, presents one of the greatest opportunities of our generation. I keep on arguing that it's the last frontier of growth. And why I chose Nigeria is because it's the largest economy in Africa, arguably, but it's the largest country by population. And I believe that the country has yet to maximize its potentials. So taking Nigeria as a microcosm of Africa, I would say, maybe I should rephrase and say, where I want to do business again is Africa. Africa is vibrant. Africa is alive. It's living. It's full of energy, vibrant energy. And the resources in Africa are absolutely mind-boggling, and the people are amazing. So we just need to get a few things right. We need to be a bit selfless and think more of the future generations. But I had the opportunity, that's where I would be, Africa. Everyone sees it. Africans need to begin to see themselves. When I wrote my doctorate, I wrote it specifically because I wanted a doctorate that could be practical when I wanted to do business or help people in Africa. It's about international business. And I wrote all my case studies from Africa, real life case studies based on my own experience of doing business from Africa and doing international business. So I then now wanted to see the theoretical side of that and tie that to the practical. That was what my thesis was all about. And I wrote it because I know that, someday I would want to use that as a thought leader to support Africa. And that's why I believe so much in Africa. So yes, Africa definitely is number one on my list. If you were to say Western world, Canada is a fantastic place. In terms of the way their mindset to business is really great. I had a project that I had the opportunity of going to Canada for, and the mindset and the approach to business is so encouraging and pragmatic. So that's one place that I liked as well. I could go on and on, but I think those two are fine.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with you. I have some relatives in Canada, and I've never heard anybody ever regret, relocating or working, doing business in Canada. But I think that some people are quite pessimistic about Nigeria and the chances of it, getting out of some of the very deep problems it's in. I am here because I'm an optimist, and I believe that I believe Nigeria will make it. But how do you see things going? Do you see Nigeria as being on a precipice? It could go either way. Do you think it's inevitable Nigeria is going to explode and into being a successful developing nation, or do you think we're in danger of disintegrating? How do you see it?
That's a politically loaded question.
Yes. How do you see it? Analyze it with your Junglepreneur mind.
Yes. The way I see it is that there's no country that has never had massive challenges. If you look at the Western world that we use as examples, they didn't get to where they are today overnight. In Britain, in this very country, centuries ago, we had, serious situations. We had the fire of London, we had pandemics, things that would destroy nations. But they found a way to come together and raise their consciousness level and move on and develop. America was the Wild West. We had the cowboys and the Indians always at war. And they fought a very terrible civil war themselves. And they went through tough times with slavery and so many other situations. But somehow they found a way to survive by raising their level of consciousness, by working together. So, by being selfless. So, these three things I think will be critical for Nigeria. Raising our level of consciousness, being selfless, and being willing to work together in an environment of equality and justice. If we're able to do that, then there's a fantastic future for the country, because then we will evolve beyond these challenges and we will move beyond the next level. So the caveat there is that we need to transit from where we are to another level. And that's what, the Western world called their renaissance, their awakening moment. I think we need to have that awakening, and it's beginning to happen. Already you can see evolutions in the way social media is evolving, societal change, in the way the young people are more dynamic and they engage more, and there's a lot more advocacy. So it's gradually beginning to happen. We had the Arab Spring. I think we will have a Saharan Spring. We'll have a Saharan Spring. I mean, it's not going to be a revolution, maybe not. I don't, it does have to be a physical revolution, but it could be a revolution of the mind. It could be a revolution of attitude change. It could be a revolution of behavioral change. And if we have our Saharan Spring in Africa, then we will, and Nigeria, then we'll move to the next level. And I'm an optimist just like you. I believe that no nation gets where it is overnight, but it will require some things to be in place, some of which I've mentioned. If that is in place, the future is very bright.
Fantastic. So finally, for the last couple of minutes, I would like to look a little bit to the future and to find out, because I know, we've talked about tunnels and pipelines. I know you have a pipeline and you must have some interesting stuff in that pipeline. So, of course, you've mentioned that this book is coming out in Nigeria, but what is coming behind it? What is going to be the follow-up to this project? Maybe not necessarily a book, but what's next from you?
Well, what's next for Junglepreneur? The concept is to put that concept in the hands of starting with Africa, every African or every person that wants to have it. And that means the next projects I have in mind are digital projects. So projects that will enable the concept of Junglepreneur to propagate digitally. I've mentioned social media. We have an app project in mind. And also, maybe I shouldn't mention it, but I guess since you asked me, the possibility of a reality show, a business reality show driven by Junglepreneurs Junglepreneur concept is already in the works. We're just waiting for the right partners and the right moment to make it happen. The concept is all written out there, and it's just ready. So those are some of the things that we have. I don't want to reveal the whole pipeline, but but we have a lot of things that we believe will take this concept further to help empower everyone. When I say everyone, that includes myself. Like I told you, I read the book. I stand aside. I read it for myself too. So there's a lot in place. I have teams in place working with me in different countries in Nigeria, in Asia, who are working on these concepts, and we're making a lot of progress, and we're doing a lot of partnering as well. One of the good partners we have is this Arcade Festival and Wida Books. These are one of our good partners that we're working with to develop quite a number of things, which I will keep under the cover for now. But we have a lot of good partnerships, and we are still looking to partner with other like-minded organizations who see the opportunity for Africa, who see the opportunity for business people, who see the opportunity for a new way of doing business with a new concept, which I call the Junglepreneur. So yes, we're very open, and we're making good progress.
Well, that's fantastic. David Fasanya, I've really enjoyed this chat with you. I also really thoroughly enjoyed and learned a lot from reading Way of the Junglepreneur. And I look forward to meeting with you again. If you're going to be working with Wida Books, definitely we'll see again. To our viewers and budding junglepreneurs, I can only recommend, I have to recommend this book very highly to you. I am sure the organizers have the information you need to get hold of the book, but just keep some money aside for when Wida Books gets this onto the market in Nigeria. And if you're in another country, well, I'm sure you can reach out to David and see how you can get a hold of a copy. I hope you've really enjoyed this chat as much as I have, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Goodbye, everybody.
If you ever need a new place to go, you can join me in a world of words. Many seems like I'm nowhere to be found. If you look, you'll find me in a book. Let's take a ride to the past in the back of a phoenix. Let's float around the moon. You'll never be alone. Now you know where to look. Find me, find you, find the word in a book. You'll never be alone. Now you know where to look. Find me, find you, find the word in a book.
Don't ruin your special moment. Shop now. Altmore.